What's going on, y'all? So I have a lifter I'm coaching that's about to go through his first powerlifting meet, and unfortunately I work and I can't be there. So we're working on getting somebody else to be there for him, but I want to kind of cover, I thought I was having a conversation with him about all the different things that go on in a powerlifting meet, and figured this would be a cool video to kind of go over what to expect in your first powerlifting meet, kind of how the meet may run, what do you need to do, and things that you need to think about. So I've got a 3 little part video set up here on this that we're just going to do one big video for instead of doing 3 different videos. So 5 bullet points to start with, and I'm going to kind of delve into this. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video. If you guys have never been to this page before, please subscribe. If you like this stuff, leave some comments what you think, maybe things I left out, leave them for these other people, things that you may do differently, a little bit different. Everybody has their own little rhythm and flair. I haven't competed in a long time. I've coached more than I have competed, believe it or not. And I have a pretty good system down I feel I'm comfortable with. It's just that, things that I think about now versus what I did when I was competing, things I wish I would have done differently now. I may do one of these maybe one time in the future. But first meet, number one thing, and this really goes for any meet, not just your first meet, but have fun, you're paying for it. So remember that, like some people build up so much stress around a meet, like you're paying to do this. So let's step back. You probably paid an organization some sort of fee to be a part of them. You're paying a meet entry. You probably, if it's your first meet, you had to buy a singlet, you bought this, you bought that, you bought a belt. You've spent all this money, maybe you're traveling a little bit. I also forgot, I'd probably recommend one close to home for your first meet, maybe in your hometown so you can sleep in your bed. But if you're paying for it, probably should make sure you have some fun. Make it a fun day. Have some friends and family maybe come out to give you some help, cheer you on, whatnot. Meet new people. It's really cool when you go to a meet, even in the warm-up room, people in your flight, you may just, hey man, how's it going? What's your name? I'm Justin. Where are you from? What gym do you lift at? Hey, don't mind if I work in with you guys today? Those conversations, man, you can form some great friendships. I did back in my day with some guys that I still keep up with now, and we haven't competed with each other in over a decade. So that's your first part. Number 2, with your attempts, be a little conservative early, specifically first powerlifting meet. You're gonna be a little nervous, a little jittery. You don't wanna mess up on your rules. That's probably the number one thing that happens. First squat, you probably crush it, but then you jump your rack command. Or you start your squat before a start command if that federation has that. So you need to make sure that you're a little conservative and take your time on your first attempt. Like make sure you get everything right, and that's where having somebody there helps. That's number 3. Get help. Have a coach to get around meet chaos. So if you've never been to a powerlifting meet before, trying to navigate between the warm-up room and the platform can get a little wonky, and I'm going to kind of cover that here in a little bit in this video. But having somebody there that can be your runner, that can go check on the board, see where they're at the meet, and then come back and tell you, hey, they're this way, this far through the first flight, or this is where they're at right now. So you have to and they can also help you kind of plan accordingly. And a really good coach typically tries to change your weights for you or have help in the back. Man, that's what some people are really great about doing. I always try to do that. If I was back there, I'm changing weights for all the lifters if I'm coaching. So if you're a coach watching this, get back in the warm-up room and change weights. Let that lifter rest as much as they can and do all the changing for them. Let them just worry. My job as a coach is you only worry about lifting. I worry about everything else. Let the stress be on me as a coach. So that can help, having somebody kind of help be your runner, a second set of eyes and ears for you. And then planning ahead. So plan for your meet ahead of time. A week out, you're like not doing much training. Well, what are things I need to do? Make sure your sleep, hydration, food. Go to the grocery store a few days ahead of time. Get whatever you're going to have meet day food. Maybe have a conversation with a coach about how do you want to do meet day nutrition. And that's kind of where I lead into this last one. Change as little as possible. Don't cut weight. Specifically, first powerlifting meet. If you're a pound or 2 maybe over your weight class, yeah, cut back. Because most competitions now are day before weigh-ins. So if you weigh in on Friday, compete on Saturday, look, come Thursday, basically just don't eat lunch or dinner. You weigh in Friday morning and then you can eat and refuel, and you're not gonna and that's 1 or 2 pounds, right? Don't worry about cutting weight in weight classes. Just go get a total. Then your next meet, you can think about some more stuff along that line, but changing as little as possible. What I don't wanna see is you go in and you have changed your nutrition the whole last week. I'm eating differently. I'm cutting this out last week. Don't change things. If you normally, through your meet prep cycle, let's say you train for 12 or 16 weeks for a meet, I normally eat like this, I normally train like this. So the lifter I have coming up, he's going to lift twice that week before his meet, and we're gonna cut things back, but he's still lifting. He's not doing nothing, but we're also not gonna add a bunch of new stuff in. I don't want him going and stretching more than he normally does, or I don't want him doing some different lifts that he normally doesn't do. We're going to go in and do the power lifts as a training for the week up, because right now, like this week, he's training. He's gonna squat on one day, bench on another, deadlift on another, and he's done that last week. So he's gonna do that this week, and he's gonna do it next week before his meet. So we're changing little as possible. Those are kind of my main bullet points, kind of like in general. And now let's kind of dive into what a meet looks like. And we'll probably let's go through the actual lifts before we go into like how to plan your lifts. All right, so when it is your turn to lift, we're gonna kind of go through each lift. And let's talk about some attempt selection as well, which will kind of bring us over to the third part here. So with the squat, that's your first lift of the meet. Some people don't know that. You're gonna go in, you obviously have to do your warm-ups. We'll go over that whole warm-up strategy here in a minute. And then when it's your turn to lift, they're gonna call your name and say, bars loaded for Justin Blatnick. The bar's loaded, sometimes they'll have an announcer, he'll say 140 kilos on the bar, whatever number it is. We'll come up with some fake numbers here in a minute. So bars loaded for the squat. So bars loaded, now it's your turn to lift. There's typically a 1 minute clock once they say bar is loaded for you to begin your lift. Begin your lift. So you don't have to be there right that second. So go, it depends if you chalk, straps, belt, make sure everything's ready to go. You walk up to the bar, and typically they're gonna be a walk, let's just say most squats are walkout. Get set on the bar, unrack, you're gonna step back, and then the thing I do is I coach and make eye contact with the head referee. That tells me I'm ready, because some people are gonna be looking down, settling, shifting their feet, moving around. I would say just make some eye contact with the referee. The head referee will say squat. You will then squat, go down and come back up. Go to depth, come back up, and then you need to wait for a rack command from your head referee. Once you're racked, you'll go back into the rack. You'll see, oh, I got 3 white lights. It's a good lift. And they'll now keep it now. Then you're done. They're going to move on to the next person. They'll start asking, all right, bar now goes to 150 kilos for so-and-so. As soon as you're done and you get 3 white lights, you need to go over to the scores table, and that's where you're going to give them your next attempt. They should have, typically they use kilos, so you're going to have to look at a conversion chart and know, give or take, how that went, and you can work with your coach about going up. If you have a coach, that coach, you can give them a responsibility like, hey, just go put in my next attempt. I'm going to go sit down in my warm-up room, or I'm going to go sit in a chair in kind of the staging area getting ready for my next attempt and just chill out. Or you can go talk with your coach. Hey, that felt great. Let's go up. Hey, that felt like crap. And the coach will be like, it looked really good. But if it felt like crap, even though it looked good, you might make a little smaller jump for your next attempt. And then you just go hang out. And then you'll repeat the whole thing. You'll wait, you'll come up. They'll probably call you, hey, Justin Blatnick, you're 3 out. Justin Blatnick, you're on deck. Justin Blatnick, bar is loaded. And now it's my attempt, and I'll go again. So the same thing happens for the bench and the deadlift. Bench, you'll go warm up for bench. Once they say your name, bar is loaded, you get set up. Now, a couple of different things. On your unrack, you are typically allowed your own spotter, right? Or you can ask one of the spotters for the meet, or you can ask them some of them provide a spotter. You can ask to use your own. They're pretty good about that. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen somewhere that's denied having a spotter. You have to know the rules for your spotter. And to go along with all this, every meet should have a rules briefing at like 8 in the morning before the meet starts at 9 o'clock. That's typically what happens. They say rules meeting at 8. They cover everything in their rule book. And then they'll say, all right, lifting's going to start at 9:15 for the first flight. They'll give some warm-up time for the first flight. We'll talk about that in a minute. But all being said, they can provide a spotter. You can ask somebody in the warm-up room while you're warming up, hey man, do you mind lifting off? Get a coach, not another lifter, so the other lifter doesn't have to think about it. Find somebody that's there helping somebody out. Hey man, do you mind giving me a lift off? And most people are pretty cool about it. And you can just talk them through, hey, hand it out just a little bit further, or that was too far out. Try not to pick me up as much. A couple different things. Once that spotter, whoever it is, if they're giving you a lift off, they're gonna need to back out of the way off the platform. That's one of the quick things, like after you lift off, get out of the way as fast as you can, so your lifter doesn't have to hold the bar that long. Once the spotter's out of the way, you'll get your commands. Start. You'll have to come down, pause it. Every federation is different. Typically, I said pause at the chest, press, and then you have a rack command. Don't jump the rack command. That's super common as people get it, they're excited, and put it in the rack before a rack command. So hold it at the top. Once you get done, 3 white lights, now I'm gonna go to the table, give them my next attempt or talk with my coach, and it repeats. Pretty simple, right? We move on to the deadlift. Same thing, you'll have your warm-ups, you go to the deadlift, they're just gonna say bar is loaded. There is no start command with the deadlift. So once bar is loaded, you chalk up your hands, yada, yada. Some people baby powder their legs, don't get that on your hands. Don't step in baby powder, that might slip. All these little bitty things you gotta pay attention to. Bar's loaded, it's your turn to lift. That's all it is, the bar is sitting there. You'll walk up, get set, lift. You need to wait for a down command, and then you have to return the bar to the ground. Pretty much every federation is the exact same. You're not allowed to move your feet on the way down, and you have to have your hands on the bar until it touches the floor. You can't drop the bar. You look up, I got 3 white lights, good. Go to the table, give them my next attempt, and repeat. Recommendations along with this is if you miss an attempt, especially first powerlifting meet, is repeat that weight. It's all about building your total in powerlifting. Yes, you can chase PRs here and there, but in a meet setting, you're being judged. You're paying to be judged to have it put on paper, right? So get as much as you can out of every lift. So if you're gonna bench 200 pounds and you do 185 and then you do 200 and you miss your command and you're like, oh, I smoked, it was easy, I'm gonna go 210. Well, what happens if all of a sudden your butt came up on 210? Now you're stuck credited with 185. You'd rather have that 200-pound number in. Trust me from experience, that's something, it's pretty much a pretty dang good given rule. The only time I see that people will go up after a miss is if they're chasing records or chasing like a win on the day. So for most people in first meets, which is really where I'm making this video for, you're gonna wanna just repeat your attempts. And if you do miss or you get red lights, this should be over here, wanna be the thing. Ask the judges, find out which judge red lighted you and say, what was it? Especially if it's weird, it's like, I didn't think my butt came up and I went over and I got 2 whites and a red, just, hey, what did I get the red on? Your butt came up. Okay, cool, I got away with it because it must have not come up on this side or this person missed it. So that's given, that's judging. So those are a couple little tidbits and tricks, some things to do, and I'll see if I can jog my memory anymore as we move on to this next thing, which is probably the hardest thing for most people in their first meet is, how do I plan my warm-up attempts? So let's cover that. All right, so let's talk about how to plan your warm-ups. This is one of the toughest things to do, especially your first meet, trying to figure out, and every meet's been a little different that I've been to, of where's the warm-up room, where's the platform, how far away are they from one another, how close can you hear it both ways. Everybody who runs meets is different. Some meets run phenomenally, they have amazing setups. Some just get by, which is awesome, because that's kind of how meets start and how they get better and better is, hey, our first year doing it's a little rough. We didn't have this, we didn't have a good separation between warm-up and platform, or all we had was one curtain. The curtain wasn't big enough. People were getting in the way over here. We didn't have good sound system. There's a lot of things that go into running meets. It's a lot of work. Please give your meet credit, the meet directors credit where credit's due. Give them some leniency and some grace on some things because it's tough to do. I've never been on full end of running a professional meet, I guess is the best way you could describe it. We do mock meets and stuff like that at the gym. There's a lot that goes into that alone. So going into making sure everything goes, and that's where it helps having these organizations, these federations come in, tow a trailer of equipment. They have that experience of trying to make it run smoothly. So if you're picking a meet, if you haven't picked one, talk to some people and find out in your area who runs the smoothest meets. That might be the place to go. So talking about choosing your attempts. So let's use a 400-pound squat is gonna be my first attempt on my squat. So this is, we're gonna talk through squat. So my 400 is gonna be my first attempt, right? So we gotta warm up for squats. And so let's put that, there's gonna be 3 flights in this meet. We're making up a meet right now. So we have flight A, flight B, and flight C. So let's say I am in flight B, and let's say there's 10 lifters in each flight. I have to do this. So we have A, B, and C. And I have 10 lifters in each flight, okay? So let's say I literally fall in the smack middle of flight B. You kind of have to play this counting game, right? So you don't want to do all your warm-ups really fast, and you don't want to do them too spread out and have too much time. So it's different for everybody based off your strength levels as well. So the meet may have some smaller people, so it's not just weight class, it may be just strength as well. But let's just say that 400-pound squat gets me in flight B. We got to make this up because every meet's different. So in flight A, I'm not going to be warming up while flight A is warming up. I'm going to warm up while flight A is lifting, okay? If you're in flight A, you're gonna have to warm up right after the rules meeting for your squats. So typically they'll say rules meeting at 8, it'll be done by 8:30, and they'll just be like, all right, we're gonna start lifting at 9 o'clock will be the first attempt. So that gives the flight A 30 minutes to warm up. So now they can time their warm-ups. But now your flight B, you don't have that time frame. You don't know how long it'll take. Well, if it's 10 lifters, you can almost say it's gonna be about 15 minutes per attempt, right? So they have to not only change the bar loading, but the lifter actually has to lift, right? So you have to like have that, you gotta think of how long does it take. If we load the bar for one person, that person has to walk up, they have a minute timer, they do their squat, they rack it, and then the bar, now they have to rechange the weight on the bar, and the bar's loaded again. And then it takes a little time. Once they get all the way up here, they'll go ascending weight. So the bar always is going up. So every attempt, so attempts 1 through 10, this will be the heaviest, then they have to strip the bar all the way down to the second attempt. So let's say flight A, the first lifter is at 100 pounds, and the last lifter is at 300. It's gonna take a little bit of time to go back to 110 for this guy or girl again, right? Does that make sense, right? So it's gonna take some time to change weight. So you can say with 10 lifters, it may be about 15 minutes. The easy way to do it is say 10 lifters is 1 minute per lift. Take out the bar loading and stuff like that. So if it's 10 minutes, now I need to figure out how many warm-ups do I wanna do to get to 400. So I'll do what I would do personally. I would do the bar. I'd probably go 135, let's see, 185, 225, 275, 315, 365. We would plate quarter jump it up there, right? I may even sneak a 95 in there, right? But what I recommend to people, and why I would sneak that 95 out of there, is trying to cut your warm-ups down. You figure out what you do before you go to your meet, how many warm-ups you're gonna plan on, and say, oh, give or take, I typically have about 6 to 7 warm-ups. Now, the heavier, the stronger you are, the bigger jumps you have to make, or the more warm-ups you have to do. The more warm-ups you do, the more you wear yourself out. So I'm gonna divide these up into an equal time frame, because I've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 attempts, 7 warm-ups I need to do. So I'm going to probably, while the flight A is finishing their warm-ups, I might start doing some stretching and some of the normal mobility stuff I do. And then when they go to start lifting, they may still have some people warming up, but in general, it's time for you to start warm up. This is when I would do the bar, as soon as they start lifting. And I may do that bar 10 times, right? It's just a bar. I'm gonna squat 400. That's just to kind of start loosening things up. So I'm gonna divide it out through their attempts. So since I am 5th in my flight, I don't want to go early in the third. I want to go somewhere in here with 365s. If I divide this up into 10 attempts, right? However many hatches I just put in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Dang, I did that right on. So look, that's probably about 2 to go in their third flight, because that now gives me about 6 attempts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is me right here. If we just kept going, right? This is where I put next flight begins. So I kind of work my way backwards. So I start with the bar here, and so now I take that out, I have 6 attempts. Well, that's 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here. Pretty simple. Then I need to hit 315 here, 275, 225, 185, and 135. So what you see how I'm a little quicker with my light ones. And then I have 3 different warm-ups here, but then I have 2 and 2. So realistically, you can say the middle of the first, the end of the first, the middle of the second, the end of the second, the middle of the third, and the end of the third, because it'll take a little bit to change some weights here and there, right? To evenly space out your warm-ups for your squat, right? So I said 7 attempts, and now I may do something like 10. I might do 5 with 135. I might do 3 with 185, but then it'll be 1s from there on out, right? I'm going to do things like put my belt on early, because we're gonna assume most first competitions are raw competitions. I might not normally put my belt on until I hit over 300 pounds. Well, I'm gonna do it at 200 pounds a day, right? Just because it might save me a little energy, But if I space these out, so as soon as they start first attempt, let's say this is an attempt 5 and attempt 10, well then here I don't want to go attempt number 1 because I just went at number 2. So we might go number 5 again, number 10. Here we might go number 4 and number 8 just to space them out, because then I have a good 6 attempts here in between there where I took my last warm up and where I'm gonna go. Is that, I know I'm drawing this and it doesn't fit perfectly here, but that is kind of the way that I can work through my squats, is space them out. Give it, like I said, about 7 attempts is pretty solid. And you just have to play with where you fall in your flight. So if I've happened to be at the end, if I wasn't 5th, if I was 10th in my flight, well now I don't want to take my last warm up, because now I got to think first attempts over here, right, of my flight. If I'm the last one, 400, well, I don't want to take my attempt, my 365 here, and then have this long wait. I need to take my last warm up now, maybe the 3rd attempt in my flight. I hope you can see that over there. That's basically when you got to kind of play the game with where you fall in your flight of how to space out your lifts. There's some things that happen every once in a while. You always think, sometimes catastrophic things happen. Somebody gets hurt. Well, now there's a 10-minute break in there. Well, you got to decide how you're going to warm up. That's what helps to have a coach on hand. When you go to do your bench press, exactly the same way. Now what happens is, let's say my bench press is only 300 pounds for my first attempt. Well, just how it falls, what if, let's say I have a bad shoulder and my bench is only 250 compared to a 400 squat. Now I'm 2nd in my flight. If I'm 2nd in my flight, well now I just have to shift all my warm-ups backwards when you're bench. So in your squat, I may be 5th, but after they do squats, they take everybody's opener bench and they reorganize that flight in order of the bench press. So you might have been 5th in squats, you might be 2nd in bench, but then you might be last in deadlift if your deadlift is really strong in your flight. So you shouldn't move, you will not move from flight A to flight B or flight B to flight C, but you can move within your flight from 2nd in your flight to 6th to 5th to 10th, depends on how many are in your flight. That's another important one. So I think that covers most of how to navigate your first meet. Like we said, just to kind of recap, go back, make sure you have fun. Make sure you're conservative, and then go after it after you make sure you're in the meet. Just make sure you get in the meet, because so many times people bomb out because they forget commands and then they get tired. And now my butt's coming up on bench, or I'm having a bad day. I'm losing balance on squat. Be a little conservative, get rid of the butterflies. They're gonna be there no matter what. It's good, you're nervous, it means you wanna do well. But then just make sure you're paying attention. And if you want, have a family member do this. If you can't find anybody to coach you, have a family member watch this video, maybe talk to some other powerlifters and have a plan, but have a plan a week out. Hey, on Tuesday, before my meet on Saturday, this is what I'm gonna do. Now, and then you have to make adjustments. What if everything I've done is in pounds and now the warm-up room only has kilos? Get pretty close, right? If you're only used to kilos and now they all have pounds, get pretty close and err on the side of a little lighter. You're gonna be strong on meet day, that meet day adrenaline, everything. So err just a little side of light, especially we're talking first meet. Some of this stuff works for your 2nd or 3rd meet if you've never seen this stuff before, or you had a little hiccup in your first meet, or you didn't have a great coach or an experienced coach. You may be able to take something away from this video. But this should get you through most of it. I'm probably missed something, and if I rewatch this video or I go through it and see some of your comments, I may be able to do a follow-up video. So if you've actually watched this far, I hope you've gained a lot out of it. I wish this is something maybe I was told before my first meet, but honestly, before my first meet, I had really good guidance from some other powerlifters, guys I trained with and whatnot, that came with me and were able to say, hey man, I got you, I'll take care of you. This is what we need to do on this meet. Because I was really nervous. I remember my first meet, I was very, very nervous. And then it's different. I then got into multiply powerlifting, completely different realm. But I hope you guys get something out of this. If you have something that I missed, please share it in the comments on this video. For those that watch this video, go look at the comments after and see if you can catch something. Somebody may say some of this stuff is stupid. That's fine, that's their opinion. This is stuff that I believe as a coach and the things that I've done that has led us to be successful. And they may have something that they may be like, wow, I've never thought of it that way, never planned out things like that. that's what I want this video to be, is a way to get some conversation started, or to also get you thinking about your first meet and how to be successful. So I hope you guys like this one. Give it a thumbs up. If you've watched this far, you've got to give this video a thumbs up, because that means you're dedicated to this, and you're dedicated to helping me grow this video, grow this channel, and spread strength sports and help people be successful. So yeah, let's get back to work.